listener, it's Monday once again, and we've got lots to talk about on today's Monday meeting. Now, Showbiz, have you been in hair and makeup? Are you okay? You're happy to do this now? Because I delayed the time of our recording, and you said, oh, thanks very much. I've just got out of the shower and done my hair.
Well, the difference is in Hello Radio is that some of us have to spend time in hair and makeup. When you've got hair like this, and jump on the socials and have a look. Hey, it just falls naturally this way. Yes, we're ready to go. Hair doesn't matter, but it is on point today. I'll give you that one.
I gave you an opening there for a hair joke, and you took it, which is great. Okay, so did you listen to Christian O'Connell, and what did you think?
Yeah, Christian O'Connell is the biggest name in Australian radio at the moment. I was super excited that you had him on the pod, and I thought he was great. I mean, he has become the Tony Robbins of Australian radio. The chat was a little less about radio. There were some really good points in there, which we'll cover. But he's become a motivational man. And I've got a bit of a theory on Christian. I think the world is changing in terms of, and I've heard this in other podcasts, that live events are the next big thing. I wouldn't be surprised if Christian moved into arena events where he gets a whole clan or tribe together and he motivates them Tony Robbins style. Now, I've met Tony Robbins. I've firewalked with Tony Robbins, and I'd firewalk with Christian O'Connell as well. I think that's where he's headed. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to let you get away with saying I firewalked with Tony Robbins and not tell me that story. So what's that about?
Oh, I was just at one of those conferences that you go to when you're in radio, and he was there, and it wasn't a radio conference. It was a Tony Robbins conference, and he took us out to the car park, and they had about 15 metres of hot coals, and he G'd us all up, and we all took our shoes off and walked on fire. I've whacked that on my LinkedIn for the last decade, Firewalker. So, you know, he pumped us all up and away we went. And that's the sort of way I feel Christian's going. Like, it's a connection point, and he is connecting so well with listeners. He's not even thinking about radio anymore. It's just about connecting one-on-one with his listeners, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think that was sort of evident in his answer that we got from the P1. So if you haven't listened to the episode, I invited some of our podcast P1s to ask questions. One of them was about localism, and are you going to be more local? And he basically said no. He said, I'm in the connection business, and it's about connecting people across different areas. So I think with that in mind, I think you're probably onto something there, because the idea of him bringing people together, no matter how or who or where, is what he's all about. And he did mention he's trying to start his own category pretty much. He's not going to be just a radio guy, as he's been for the last 28 years. He's going to do a lot more with it. So you could be onto something there.
Look, my takeaway is in that interview, he said, I don't do local. And I thought that's interesting, because that's all you've done for the last 8 years. You ran a whole promotion on which Melbourne footy team should I follow. So I was very interested in that. What I was more fascinated with was how, as a team, a radio show, they did the Bondi attacks, because, of course, he was the only person that wasn't on survey break except for Ben Fordham. It reminded me that you and I have also done our fair share of major tragic events. And when we were programming DMG, I was on holidays in New York State when I witnessed the effects of 9/11. And I was checking my emails, my hot mails at Hard Rock Cafe, Niagara Falls, and I was watching Army tanks cross the border and close the border down. So the country went into lockdown straight away. And I had one sole email from you, and it literally just said, call Merrick and Rosso reverse charges now.
Really?
You told me to call them. Next thing you know, I'm doing crosses all over Australia, just explaining what I had seen and really trying to get my thoughts together. I had a pen and paper. This was old school. And I was writing down notes. I was writing down 6 tanks just crossed the border. Men with machine guns are now guarding the border. And you were straight on it. Like, we didn't have mobile phones really back then. You emailed me and just said, call reverse charges. So hearing how he did it was fascinating, you know, a modern day event. And they tackled it and did it so well.
Yeah, and well, look, you've got a better memory than me, because I would certainly remember being woken up to go into the newsroom in the middle of the night for 9/11, but I'd forgotten that you were there, actually. That's a great memory to bring back. And yeah, it was a bit old school, but I think what Christian demonstrated is the most important thing you can do is be a human. Open the phones, let people speak, talk to people who may have been impacted, and that's what he and his team did really well around the terrible events in Bondi in December last year. Speaking of memory, you're going to do something in a minute which I'm a bit scared of. You're bringing up an old air check that I gave you. Now, don't do it just yet. But is this right? Am I believing the tease that you gave our P1s? You're going to bring up an old air check that I gave you?
Last week on the pod, we started air checking random shows. We do a lot of air checks personally. You know, on the side, I would do 300 a year with talent around the country, both in Australia and over in New Zealand. And I have vivid memories of an air check you gave me back in the early 2000s that has rattled my cage radio for the last 25 years. So we'll get to that real soon, but the notes still ring true today. And this one comment you gave me, I've never gotten out of my head in over 25 years.
God, I hope it's a positive one.
No, it wasn't, but we turned it into one. It wasn't delivered in a positive tone, but
Oh,
the
no.
heart was there. Like the heart was to say, what can we do to make this situation better? And so, you take it quite negatively, but the end result was fantastic. So we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, well, I'm sort of looking forward to that, I guess. Now, I want to talk about Kylewashing because Kyle's PR machine is in overdrive at the moment. And of course, he would be. He's the PR machine himself. Doesn't need much help. But yesterday he was on the Carl Stefanovic podcast. He's been doing every newspaper article. I actually feel sorry for Craig and Irene because they seem to be having people running interviews calling them exclusive when he was on Game Changers weeks ago. Keep up, guys. But there was a couple of pieces I thought were really interesting. One was Sam Buckingham-Jones, who is, I think, one of the premier media journalists in the country from the Australian Financial Review. They do a segment called Lunch with the Fin Review, and usually it's a captain of industry and they're going out to a white tablecloth restaurant. Well, Kyle got in the back of a car and went through a McDonald's drive-through with Sam. And so the bill came to $60 or something, and it was all Macca's takeaway. So Kyle is the charm and disarm guy, right? He's charming the whole media. But there's a couple of things I think should be pointed out. One is he'll never come on this podcast because at the moment he's choosing people that are friendly and friends to him or in the cult, and they're just kind of going along with what he says. And this is why I bring it up. There's a couple of things he said in the Carl interview that I thought were really, really telling. Have a listen to this.
But that was part of the 10-year plan. I was 1 year into the 10-year plan. And then due to someone's bad mood, that all fell apart, I'd imagine. I'm not sure why. We still don't know the real reason. Won't speak to Jackie until she's finished with her court proceedings. But yeah, I almost don't care why anymore. Like I was very why, how, what, did I do anything? Look, reflection, all this stuff. And then I thought, this is just someone's bad mood. Like everyone around me assured me, all the staff that were entrenched that I employed, and then other people resigned. Women resigned from the radio station to come and work for me. And I thought, oh, that's remarkable for such a horrific bully in the workplace that all these people want to come and work for me. So you've got to remind yourself, oh, that's right, I'm not a bully. So
he's basically saying Jackie's had a hissy fit. Jackie got angry, and that's the reason the whole thing came down. Kyle, that is not the case. You were not successful in Melbourne. ARN certainly looked for a way out in amongst it, and maybe someone else pulled the trigger. But the reality is you embarrassed and humiliated Jackie. That's what you did. You embarrassed her and humiliated her on air, and she decided she couldn't work with you ever again. So that's a fact. That's what she is basically saying, and that's what the legal action's about. Also, in the Fin Review article that Sam did, it's interesting because, and I'm not going to repeat the allegation, but you can go on afr.com and have a look, just search for Kyle and you'll see it, talking about part of her evidence that she's going to put forward. And I would say, it's a dangerous area for Kyle to be speculating in. He thought he was off the record, but he wasn't. And so I just think Kyle has to start pulling his head in. Sure, go and play your way through this wonderful, not podcast, we can't call it a podcast, whatever you want to call it, live show. Do it, make yourself happy, make lots of money and enjoy it. I would just be very careful about pressing Jackie on anything because it shows me, one, that you haven't really learnt your lesson of what happened. And two, I think you're not on the same page as much as you think you are with Jackie. So that was just my point of view on that one.
Yeah, I find it interesting that the rhetoric I've been hearing is maybe Jackie's relapse. Jackie's not doing so well. And I thought that they're dangerous words to be saying because Jackie hasn't spoken yet. Everyone at some point wants to hear her truth. Kyle does come on this show. What's the first question you ask him?
Do you feel in any way responsible for what's happened? In any way? And when I say what's happened, I mean from the minute the contract was signed, not from the minute the show went off the air, because he's quite happy to say, oh, well, I don't know what that was about. She was in a bad mood, or it's really a little bit gaslighty to start painting yourself as a bit of a victim here. Wish you the best of success with your show, Kyle. Go and do it. Enjoy it. Have your team around you. Happy days. I would just be very careful about going over old ground, and it may not be as solid as you think it is.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Let's talk air checks for a second. We did our first blind air check on the show last week with Christian and Bella from I-98. Now, they were great sports and they're doing great work. And our P1s have asked us on our page, tell us about air checks. How consistent do you do them? So as someone that does a lot, I think daily is super important. You might be shaking your head going, who's got time for that?
No, it's the most important thing to do. Of course you should do
it. It is.
Yeah.
It's your job. It gives consistency. It lets you pick up offhanded comments and turn them into follow-up breaks or extensions the next day. It enables you to bring stuff back as story arcs, and it actually stops laziness. I found when I moved from doing 5 a week to 3, that on the off days, they would slow down. Talent would slow down.
Yep.
They would be naturally lazy, as we all are. How can we get through this as easy as we need to? And on those odd days became lazy days. So they'd even think, oh, Liam's not listening today. No, but Liam always was. So I think 5 days a week is the minimum. Now, you famously, when you were my program director, gave me an unforgettable air check that has rattled this cage for 25 years.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Here's the line. No,
Okay.
I'll be honest. You were great at air checks. You were one of the most encouraging program directors I ever had. But you said this. I'm going to say it out of context and then follow it up. You said to me, Liam,
wait a minute. Wait. Did you say I'm going to say this out of context?
well, you'll take it out of context. You'll take it out of context.
All right.
So I want you to hear the whole thing.
Okay.
You said to me, Liam, you are so good at everything, just not great at anything. Pause. And I went, whoa, that is cutting. But then you said, let's find your great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you got all these skills. You're good at everything. You can do anything. But let's find your great. So I went away. And from there, I knew I needed to be the guy that elevated, that amplified, that extended or polished every break I was doing. My job was to turn the mundane into magic. I had to make breaks fun, exciting, interesting, and a must listen. So I would take the boring and make it go bang. Now, what you were really saying to me in your Sledgehammer Way radio was, you can interview, you can panel, you can play grabs, you can tell stories, you can do it all, but be famous for something. And I think along the way, that's where you possibly gave me the nickname Showbiz, because I just realized I had to bring the razzle dazzle. So it's kind of like the Game Changers Iron Chef mentality. We're all given the same radio ingredients. What can I do differently to other shows? I'll give you some examples. So back in the early 2000s, Big Brother had started. Biggest show on Australian TV. Everyone's doing daily updates. We, and you were part of this, we convinced the local shopping centre to whack 10 listeners in the front of the shop window for 2 weeks, and basically ran our own Big Brother show on the radio. Now, everyone's done it since, but not in 2001. So how can we have our own version of that? We once famously had a whole summer of street drops and prize giveaways in the old station vehicle. So we converted a Mr. Whippy van, whacked a logo on it back in 2002, did the same job, just added showbiz. And here comes the Star FM summer ice cream van. So it was just about elevating the mundane.
Yep.
And I just knew that I had to get better at value-adding breaks and promotions. So elevating simple breaks to must listen to events, adding the special sauce to the same ingredients that every other announcer had. So when I hear someone do an On This Day segment from Jock's Journal, and I love Jock's Journal, and hello to Greg Newman, he's a great guy, but I immediately think, what could or would I do with that intel to make it bigger than the next radio station?
Very good. Well, so are you still holding on to this after 25 years, or are you happy to now say it was constructive feedback?
Absolutely fantastic constructive criticism. Now, the fact is that the 2 air checks I remember the most are you saying to me, you're good at everything, but find you great. You didn't say great at nothing. You just said you need to find you great. And Anthony Whitey, who was the PD that followed you, who was also one of my favourite PDs, in an air check said to me once, geez, you're good at doing the weather. And I thought, I do not want to be famous for the weather.
Unless you're Brian Bury or someone like that.
I mean, the weather's the last thing, Whitey, I wanted to be good at. I mean, I think I said once, take a brolly, folks, because it might rain. Oh, Liam, so good at the weather.
Oh, that's brilliant. Was that out in Dubbo too, where it doesn't rain? Very good.
So they're the 2 cage rattlers. Hey, we've got some big news too. Some shows ended this week. A big major show ended this week on Australian radio.
That's right. Trevor Chappell, who was on ABC overnights for a long period of time, briefly did afternoons on 774 ABC Melbourne. He had a lot of celebration for his career, which was really nice to see, actually. There was a lot of social video, and he even did an OB at the Melbourne Museum. And so there's lots of celebrations. But this caller to his show, on his last show, made me laugh.
Hello, Norman.
Please get the violins out. Oh, my God. You just love everybody coming in. Oh, Trevor, I love you. Everybody will forget you in a week. Please. We'll all move on. We always do.
See you later.
So not everyone's going to miss him by the sound of it.
As a listener of his show, I would catch the last hour of his show every morning on my way to work. He was so good. You know, it takes a special person to do mid-dawns, to actively want to do it, to pursue it, to live that lifestyle. It's a sacrifice on your health. It's a sacrifice to your family. He was warm. He was endearing, and he was an active listener. Like, he would just ask questions. And it's sad to see him go. And it's back in the last 12 to 18 months, losing him and Luke Boner. It feels like I've lost an overnight friend, because I really believe there's a whole section of our listening community that need and love a live person on mid-dawns. And I know he's going to be replaced by a great broadcaster, Francis Leach. I mean, who didn't grow up listening
Oh,
to
yeah.
him?
Francis is awesome.
So good.
Yeah.
But he will be missed, absolutely. Hey, also some great news this week for an Aussie done good in New Zealand. Bree Tomasel, Brianna, who was famous from socials with her and her mum. She's doing great work on Drive on ZM in New Zealand. She announced this week that she and her partner have had a baby. Have a listen.
Bree Tomasel, do you have any news for the Bree and Clint show?
Not much going on here, guys. Nothing really to report other than the fact that on Wednesday morning at 5:45, my partner Sophia and I welcomed a beautiful baby boy into the world.
I just got goosies.
I just feel like my whole world is complete. And
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
it's just so special, and it's like this instant feeling where I feel like mine and Sophia's family is here, and we're just a complete little happy unit now. It's just this overwhelming feeling of love and support, and it's just an incredible time. I feel very lucky and special.
Oh, that's amazing.
Exciting news.
Yep.
So
Congrats.
good. But what I love the most is that in 2026, we're still playing the oldest sound effect in radio, and all she got was a bell ring, ding, ding, ding. That's the best we had, Clint. That's the best we had. We can do better. A baby crying, something, anything, but the ding, 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 ding. You've had a baby. You've won a car. But great news. I can't wait for the day we see her back on Australian radio. She has just kicked goals in New Zealand. She's a top broadcaster. She's done so well.
Absolutely. Good on you, Bree. Well done. All right, the shows we've got coming up this week. Now, I am going to talk to Stephen Green from The Music about AI and music, because the number one song in Australia, I think, is still Like a Prayer, done with an AI voice. So I'm going to talk to Stephen what he thinks about AI and music together. And the other interview I've got this week is Triple M's No Talk Day, which just happened a few weeks ago. Go behind the scenes of how that started. I've got Brendan Tacey, who runs it at SCA, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the story behind it, why it's so important, and why he personally is so committed to it.
Yeah, we're also going to have Steve Graham on the show this week, who has done so well in Newcastle for the last 30 years, was famously poached by Triple M Adelaide to launch there, only to be told to pack your bags and go home because Stubbsy's taking over, went back to Newcastle and has basically ruled the roost ever since. What I find most fascinating is that he was a fisherman. He was on trawlers, and then one day said, I might give radio a go. And 30-something years later has just done it with ease. So he'll be one of our guests this week. Lots to talk about this week on the show.
And hopefully no more air checks from me. Thanks, Showbiz.